Hey, welcome to Innovation in Tech Today, weekly video. Is YouTube censoring their videos? That's what we're going to talk about today. Here, we've got Brittany Davis here, Andrew Jansen, I'm Paul French, and here's Peter Giedel. Brittany, I'll start with you. What do you think? Like, the news hit yesterday?
Yeah, so apparently YouTube is trying to enforce their appropriate guidelines, so trying to take away swearing, graphic images. So as a mom who has a son who's a year old, that's something I actually look to on YouTube. I would like it to be a little bit more censored, but apparently they're taking it a little bit too far. They're taking away ads about depression, acne videos. They're just taking it too far. Sorry.
No, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would disagree. I don't think they're taking it too far because it's well within YouTube's rights and it's well within the advertisers' rights to not want certain content played with their advertisements. And I know you were telling me earlier that, you know, that's sort of an antiquated notion. Like, the viewers aren't necessarily going to associate that content with the advertisements. But, you know, I still think it's totally fair for advertisers to say, hey, I'd rather keep this separate.
Okay, but there's two questions. One, obviously, YouTube has the right to do whatever they want. As a private company, they can do what they want with the content that's on there. However, they've positioned themselves, and also Twitter, as these almost quasi-utilities that people use to broadcast themselves. So when they get involved, whether it's Twitter recently with banning certain users, or YouTube now, and I mean, make no mistake, by taking away the monetization from all these people, that's a form of censorship. And they can't have it both ways. They can't position themselves as this grand, open, free dialogue and also, oh yeah, but we're a corporation and you can't say these things.
This is something Facebook got in trouble for recently. They were in hot water because people claimed that there was kind of a liberal or left bent to some of the stuff that Facebook was putting out, and Facebook claimed that they had like an editorial board that would like consider whether stuff went out or not. I mean, right there, like that kind of violates like our notion of what Facebook is this kind of like free sharing public domain where you can just put anything you want, and that's really what makes the internet awesome. I mean, that's what's led to all this great artwork on the internet, all these new like media for entertainment. I mean, that's the reason YouTube exists, is because like, oh, you can put whatever you want on here, like unless it's porn pretty much, but like everything else is great. Like, so like, yeah, they do have the right to do that, but I think the question is like, should they do that, and isn't that kind of like, you know, like a problematic kind of thing to do, like given the purpose of their enterprise, YouTube, right?
And who's to consider what is lewd and what isn't? I mean, what about a podcast that's discussing drugs in an abstract way? Like, that's no longer allowed? Or, you know, look at music videos. 50%, it said sexually explicit content. 50% of music videos have sexually explicit content.
Well, I think that's another problem that they're going to run into, because if they're going to keep monetizing those, which I have no facts to back it up, but I'm assuming that if a channel like Vivo is going to continue to put out music videos that will draw millions, maybe even billions of views, that's definitely making YouTube some money.
Yeah.
More so probably than even some of the bigger private YouTubers. So, I mean, are they going to give preferential treatment to certain channels, or are they going to be completely fair? I think that's something that they'll have to look at, and if they didn't consider that, that's definitely going to be a problem that they're going to run into.
And I'd also say this is the first time YouTube is going to run into competition. Now that they're starting to restrict which videos they're monetizing, it's the perfect time for a different company to step up and create a second YouTube and make people happy.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things that makes this like really interesting is how broad these categories. I mean, you were talking about the editorial filter there, and like who's to decide what's lewd, what's not, right? And now we have the list. This is what YouTube is citing, and the people who are defending YouTube out there are saying, well, like YouTube's always had these policies, but like the only difference is now they're able to enforce them because they've got like a new notification system. So here are the categories from 2015. So content that YouTube considers to be inappropriate for advertising, and this is where like people are getting their dollars, right? Includes but is not limited to, so even that like opens it up. Sexually suggestive content, including partial nudity, that's also really vague, and sexual humor, which is like all of the internet.
Yeah, that's true. I think that I can understand where they're coming from with these guidelines, but honestly, most of the internet is made up of content that would violate these guidelines, which doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense. And I know I would disagree that it's full-on censorship, because they're not preventing people from making this content, and they're not actively going after it and taking it down. However, it's certainly...
You just can't make money off of it
It's
now.
a form of censorship. It's not complete censorship.
Right,
And
I would agree with that.
I mean, one of the frustrating things I saw was they're talking about, news or violence or controversial things.
Yeah.
One of
Yeah.
the most interesting things about YouTube is, as so many investigative journalists have gone away, there's been some really interesting stuff, from Vice and all these other places that you can watch these incredible documentaries. Or even, I remember when during the Egypt revolution and then the counter revolution.
Well, the Coney
I went to
thing, all that,
I went to
like,
CNN and there was absolutely nothing there. And then I go on YouTube and there's all these young journalists who are recording videos on the spot.
Yeah.
And putting it up there, and so what? They are not allowed to make money off that because it's news. It's just a strange notion.
They painted a really broad stroke, right? So controversial or sensitive subjects. So even people with acne videos or a video on depression have been censored. That's a pretty
that definitely
pretty safe topic to be talking about, and
seems
YouTube is
taking it too
pulling
far.
it, which is interesting because that's very.
And it seems
It's not inappropriate technically.
It seems like very 1990 because advertisers are freely participating in FX and Comedy Central and these networks that are putting out controversial, violent things, and they don't seem to have the problem running their advertisements there. So I don't understand why they would on YouTube.
Well, and it's interesting because it seems a lot like what Amazon did to reviews. They restricted their reviews, so family and friends could no longer review products. If you knew them on social media, if you knew them through social networks, you could no longer review friends' products, anything like that, and they tightened down the grip. So it kind of seems like YouTube is doing the same thing. They're just slowly starting to restrict, and pull back more.
But the level, though, just like we were saying, at least in the, it was still kind of broad, if we're talking about TV, but it was a little more codified than it is here. Look at this, violence. What does that even mean including display of serious injury and events related to violent extremism? So first of all, the violence there, how are we defining violence? If I shove Andrew, is this video I'm not gonna shove you, but if I do, would that ban the video? Or is it light and if we're just light and playfully I don't know, if there's a little rough and tumble, I don't know, whatever, it's gonna be banned. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, at least on that point, I did see a perspective that was saying it might encourage less people to try to benefit from disaster or anything like that. If you've got footage of an earthquake or something that turns out to be really pretty damaging to lives and infrastructure, it might garner a lot of views because it's a newsworthy event and you just happen to have footage of it that's pretty exclusive.
I was definitely an early adopter of YouTube. Yeah. I remember I think I had an account in 2004, and I've wasted so many hours on YouTube over the years. But one of the things that attracted me to it was so much different than TV because people were expressing their own opinions, and it wasn't corporate controlled, and people could curse and they could talk about whatever they want. So if you take that away, you're taking away a lot of the interesting things about YouTube. If people can't make money, a great example from a feature article on politics in the last magazine, I wrote about how the internet is changing politics, and I interviewed Jake Ugar from the Young Turks, which is a progressive liberal YouTube channel that has 3 billion views. And they're allowed to exist and have, they're allowed to make money and have a thing by having a cool studio. And so if you're going to take away you're taking away a really interesting, perspective from the internet, which is, and that's where I do think it is a form of censorship. But
well, I think the bigger question, a lot of people have talked about this, is 2004 YouTube 2016 YouTube?
No, I would say no. I think it's become really a lot more. There are a lot more of professionally produced or studio backed, and by studio I mean private studios, small studios, but there are teams of people behind the videos instead of just single content creators anymore, which I think is almost necessary if you're going to reach the level of content creation that you need for good content that deserves to be monetized, honestly. So yeah, I would say it's definitely a different YouTube, but that doesn't mean that the content should be restricted towards what might tend to be more traditional.
It's so crazy,
like
though.
network television.
Like, aren't you changing what you're monetizing by putting in these policies, though? The very thing that made YouTube profitable is now under attack.
Yeah, because YouTube, it's all about its honesty. That's what appeals to people. Real people doing real things.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you want to watch YouTube.
Well, and it's a money grab. They know the demographics, in prime time, very, vanilla PC TV programs. Those have much better monetization. So they're trying to take those same strategies and apply it to the internet, and I'm not sure it'll work.
Yeah, will they though?
I don't know.
Like cable ratings have been slipping like the last 5 years. Like will that same formula translate into entertainment, like into viable advertising entertainment, profitable entertainment 10 years from now?
Well,
I don't know.
No, it seems counterintuitive because I think it was last month at one point, during primetime hours, YouTube was getting more viewers than the primetime than NBC, CBS, the networks.
Right.
And then to go, all right, well, let's just adopt the strategies of a dying industry. I understand the logic behind it because they want to make more money up front, but it could be really hurting the brand.
Right.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that a second YouTube is due to hit. So I think a lot of people are pissed off, and the best thing that can happen is a different company come up and do something similar to YouTube, but allow them a lot more freedom and create that new enterprise that everyone is dying to have.
Well, it's certainly a good time, but I mean, if you look, there are similar sites. We've got Dailymotion. I know Vimeo is usually for more, it's more of a film short film type repository. But I mean, those sites exist, and I would say if you look at something like what happened with Reddit when the CEO, there was a big kerfuffle there. I saw in tons of threads across the entire site people saying, "Oh well, I guess it's my time to leave now." But I'm willing to bet that Vote, which was the up and coming Reddit killer of the time, I mean, you don't hear anything about it. I think that YouTube has reached a point where it's almost too big to fail, and you'll always have a large group of its users that don't care what happens, because as long as they can get what they want, free or otherwise.
Yeah, I don't agree with you about the too big to fail thing, but to your point, people didn't, a lot of people were saying that, YouTube was dead once the advertisers came in. I remember that, because before there were no advertisers on YouTube, and now all of a sudden we have these, video intro advertisers, and everyone was saying this is the death of YouTube, but that didn't happen. Obviously, YouTube is more profitable than ever, so I don't know,
Go ahead, Zane.
What's interesting also is that YouTube is saying that you can theoretically dispute your case if you have the legal rights to take action against them. So on one hand, you can try to refute it, but that's only if you have the legal rights. But the way they've written their definition for advertiser-friendly content, it's so broadly stroked that you honestly can't come up with a case against YouTube to get your monetization back.
Well, yeah, and I mean, not to repeat what I said before, but it really does come down. They've positioned themselves as Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. These are parts of our lives and parts of our community and how we interact with each other. So I think they do have some sort of obligation to maintain, to not, that this isn't simply, a Burger King advertisement. Right. This is a community, and to start, you're going down a dangerous path once you start saying that, this is lewd, or you can't say this, or that, and I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens with this. So.
How do you think this happened? Was it? Do you think the advertisers came in and started, pushing, Google or YouTube?
Why now? Why, if they've been claiming that they've been already taking monetization off of certain videos, why are they only just now deciding to make it public and let everybody know?
Yeah.
That's hard to say, actually. I'd say what's really interesting is that how are they going to enforce it? Because I'd say 90% of all YouTube videos have sensitive subjects in it, or they have some kind of sexual humor or something that's inappropriate. So do you just stop monetizing all videos? How are they actually going through and enforcing it? I'd say that they've actually set themselves up for failure because they can't be fair when they're trying to accomplish this goal.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably that all these advertisers are in front of these videos anyway.
Yeah.
It's just they're trying to charge a higher rate by saying, oh, this is vetted, very vanilla, there won't be anything offensive, so they're trying to get more money out of the advertisers.
Yeah.
You know, again.
Well, what's really interesting is to think, like, how many PG movies would even pass, like, these rules that YouTube has set up? Like, no violence of any kind. Like, that's how they worded it. Inappropriate language. Like, I mean, even a PG movie, like, you'll get damn it sometimes, or like there'll be some like innuendo, some sexual
cartoon
innuendo,
violence,
like,
or
exactly,
right.
yeah. Like how many like these like you said, like the terms are so broadly stroked that like you're basically set up for failure. You know, you're set up for censorship.
Yeah, unless you're one of the people who just plays with toys on YouTube all day long, you're going to have to be careful in your videos from now on if you want to make money off of YouTube.
Well, maybe that's the point. Maybe they want to encourage more family-friendly content. Maybe they want to start encouraging a greater amount of content that isn't what we already have.
I'm sorry, but if YouTube's like the vessel for an entertainment democracy, then like you're not gonna get like, and I mean that's the question. Like, is it less democratized than it used to be? Like, cause you know back in the day it was more personal. It was about people like sitting in front of their computer and vlogging, and now people still do that, but it's so much more commercialized than it used to be. Like people have set up whole industries and personalities, like TV personas, like sitting in front of the camera like that.
And how many awful initiatives have been started of think of the kids,
right?
From the drug war to prohibition. Like that isn't always necessarily a reason to do something, is to think of the children.
Well, that's what's so sad, because the thing about YouTube is that it's honest. That's why it's become the new TV. People want to hear what you have to say. And they want you to talk about sensitive subjects. They want to hear about natural disasters. And they want to use inappropriate language, because that's what people do on a day-to-day basis.
But it's so mainstream. I'm going to play devil's advocate. It's so mainstream right now that, like, it's not... like honesty kind of can be a bad thing if your kids if we want to say like ABC is honest, right? You don't want your kid to turn into honesty. Like honesty is like not good for a 4-year-old. Maybe I don't know. I don't know, but like there's a lot of like content that I know like moms and dads wouldn't want their kids to see on YouTube, and it's so accessible now because it's mainstream.
But it's kind of like the same thing with the internet or your TV. You just have to, the parents have to control what their child sees. Yeah. It's not up to YouTube to control it for us.
Yeah, it's on the parents. And I mean, unfortunately, a kid can find any horrific thing if they have internet access. Yeah, that's just an unfortunate fact of life now. But yeah, it's on the parents. Yeah. You can't expect like YouTube is going to make it, scrub the internet clean.
I haven't, used parental, like, I haven't, like, tried to navigate, like, around, like, parental locks or whatever they used to call them. Like, I'm sure they still exist, right? Like, content blockers and stuff like that. But I could get around them back then. I don't know if they've changed since then. I don't know. But, yeah, I don't know. But this would probably be a good time for a cut.
All right, this is Andrew from Innovation and Tech Today signing off. Go ahead, like, comment, share. Let us know what you think. Follow us on social media, and we'll see you next time. So what do you guys think?